Welcome all to the Friday Night Strike. I'm your host, Night Strike, and for the next half an hour to an hour, I'll be here hanging out with you guys, talking to you, having a conversation. If anyone actually bothers to show up. I'm not seeing anyone out there, but I'm sure that people will trickle in as things happen. So, hey, great. So, anyways, what's going on tonight? I haven't checked the news or anything. I'm sure it's all doom and gloom. So, what you guys want to talk about? Who we have out there right now? Well, we got Drucifer out there. What's going on, Drucifer? Hello. Oh boy, not a lot going on today, is there? Let's see. Well, no, I don't want to talk about it. No, I'm not talking about that either. Bass Boy 99091 is out there saying, I am here and awake. Well, I'm glad you woke up from your food coma. Or, I'm glad you're awake, I guess. Ooh. Here's something interesting. Check this out. This is from the Truth About Guns. Wheelchair warriors out there. Christmas shopping can be stressful, especially if you don't have or aren't willing to fork over the money for the merchandise you really want. Merchandise like very expensive timepieces. This was apparently the situation in a Southern California jewelry store just before Christmas when a couple browsers decided to use a non-monetary means to speed the shopping process. The failed crime unfolded shortly before 11 a.m. at Vanna Watch and Jewelry at Mission Street and Fremont Avenue in the South Pasadena Police Department said in a written statement. The owner was working at the business along with his nephew. Two men entered the store and asked to look at Rolex watches. Sergeant Tony Abdallah said, sergeant with the police department, the owner asked them to provide ID first. Apparently, the owner's spidey senses were already tingling. One of the two men then demanded the workers turn over all the store's Rolex watches. Sergeant said. One of the two would-be robbers pulled a knife and attempted to stab the owner. All of a sudden, this guy pulls a knife out of his pocket and he lunges at me. The store owner said, I blocked the knife. Luckily, I didn't get any scratches. Luckily, my nephew was really quick and he'll pull out his gun. So, the moral of the story, don't bring a knife to a gunfight. But at the end of the day, those robbers ran off instead of getting the upper hand. So that's good. All right, who do we got there? What are they saying out there on the YouTube side? On the YouTube side, we got subjective opinions X. Okay. All right. I'm not going to argue. Juice for saying, dude, this channel, Armed ASMR or something like that popped up in my YouTube. To me, the video could be bad for 2A community. Was around Bump Stock Man. That's the way he acts it off to me. Yeah, well, don't get me started on ASMR. It's weird in general. All right, we got Two Live Moo out there. Hello. We've got John Brown Productions. What's going on, John Brown? How you doing? Who else out there? Two Live Moose says, Night Strike, need your opinion. SKS Paratrooper for $400, good or bad deal? It seems to be in decent condition. What should I be looking for? Question, Two Live Moo. Do you know if it's a Russian or Chinese? Yes. It's a Norinco. So if it's a Norinco, if it's got a bayonet, it's probably got the spike. And if it's a Norinco, it's not a. Here's the thing about the Chinese the SKSs. Okay, the Norinkos in general. Okay, Norinkos aren't military. The Norinkos weren't made for military service. Even their paratrooper models weren't made for military service. Those were made for commercial export. So if you're gonna get one, as long as you don't have to get any Cosmoline off of it, or two, redo any of the stock, then it's a good price. As long as condition of it, as long as it's got the bluing is intact, it's got the bayonet, if you can't have a bayonet in your state, and as long as the stock does not have any cracks and the finish on the stock looks good, then yeah, I can see that for $400. But other than that, if it's got like a beat up, cracked stock that looks like they haven't gotten all the Cosmoline out, if the bluing is all the way gone and it doesn't have the bayonet, then I'm telling you right now, it ain't worth it. Okay? But again, if it seems to be in good condition, decent, good, however you want to say it, as long as the stock is in good condition, the bluing is fine, and as long as it's got a bayonet, then yeah, $400 is worth the price. I mean, if you can't have a bayonet in your state, I understand. Some states are anal about that. So even then, yeah, I'd still get it. No bayonet, stock is got some dents, and the bluing has a few issues. Okay, well, at that point, I would offer the seller like $300 for that, because in that condition. 200, 400, it doesn't have the bayonet. You're Michigan? Yeah, Michigan doesn't care about bayonets. You can have a bayonet in Michigan. Okay, so one, you tell him it doesn't have the bayonet. The Norinco paratroopers had bayonets, and they don't have it. One. Two, it's got bluing issues. Three, the stock is not in good condition. It's got dents. Okay? At that point, you offer him $3. You don't offer him $4. If he takes $3, great. If he says no, move on. Because you can get better SKSs than that for that same amount of money. I'm not kidding. I've seen them better. I've seen better examples for $400, than that. But just offer him $300. If he takes it, you know what? You got a good deal. But if he fights you on it, pass. Just do that. And granted, this is my personal opinion, but it's just that when you're looking to buy a Milsurp rifle or just like an SKS in general, as long as you're in a state that doesn't prohibit that kind of thing, you want the rifle to come with the bayonet because all of them were exported with bayonets. Okay, you want the stock and the bluing to be in good condition, and you don't want to have to take Cosmoline off. I mean, if you have to take Cosmoline off, I hated doing that. I don't like doing that. I've done it. I did not buy a shotgun yet, David. Drucifer says, I got an old Sears 12 gauge think it will go up in price if Sears closes? Well, it depends on whether you kept it in good condition or not. I mean, if you've kept it in good condition, if the stock on it is decent, if the bluing is good, it may go up like $20, but that's probably as far as it go because remember, a lot of those Sears branded shotguns were actually made by other manufacturers for Sears, and Sears just rebranded them. That's all they were. So they may not go up in price. So, anyways. And no, I haven't bought anything yet. I'm dragging my heels. I'm waiting. Uh-oh, we got Guitar Man Pete out there. What's going on, Pete? See. Let's see. He's probably not doing anything either. Oh, I think that's the wrong email address. All right. I sent some links out if anybody wants to, if they want to jump in. There's Grim90 out there. Grim is out there. All right. What's it saying? Juicer says, no. It needs to be redone. It's been used a lot by my grandfather. Then Drucifer, you need to get it touched up. I'm not going to say restore it because that can help and hurt the value. I would say get it cleaned up a little bit if you can. Scott P79 just said, I just removed Cosmoline off my Yugo. I picked up a couple of weeks ago. It sucked. Yes, Cosmoline sucks. Oh, CloverTax out there. Yeah, department store rebrands don't go up. I know, I collect them, and that is what makes them great to collect. You can pick them up cheap. Yeah, and that's why I said if anything, it might go up $10 or $20. That's only if market prices go up $10 or $20. That the prices may seem the same for those type of guns. So it all depends on what happens after the first of the year. Yeah. You know what? Let me do this real quick. Over, check your email. Yeah, normally shotguns are inexpensive. All right, let's see what everybody else is saying. Funny thing, my wife got me dies for Christmas. Wrong caliper. Wow. That's awful. No, she's mad. She wants the cheaper 9mm ammo. Yeah. So, Blue Steel 44. What's going on here? Well, what's going on is we're doing the Friday night strike. I'm bringing it back. So that's what we're doing. Hey, Clover, what's going on, man?
What up?
Not much. I just figured, no one's doing anything usually at 6 p.m. on Friday evening, so I figured I'd start doing the Friday night strike again.
Yeah.
So, just earlier time. Same type of format, just hanging out with people. So, Vanessa Kitty is saying, get her into reloading. She's searching for reloading equipment sales now. Ooh. There's some. Can you comment on this? Blue Steel saying 16 is the gentleman's gauge.
Yeah. Well, that's what it's called. Yeah.
Really? I've never heard that one before.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Dude, come on. Need to get in touch with your inner FUD, apparently. Don't know enough. Come on.
I know some things. I know like the most off-the-wall things, but I've never heard a gauge referred to as the gentleman's gauge. Okay? It's just I haven't gotten to that niche yet.
16's a good gauge too.
Yeah. I'm not arguing. I'm just saying I haven't heard that before.
Right.
So Guitar P is saying she don't even clean her guns, laugh out loud. She just lights the trigger and she can shoot. Well, that's how it is. Scott P79 says my local shop got a couple of the Mossberg retrograde 590s in there. Nice, but a bit overpriced. Yeah, I gotta comment on that real quick. I mean, I'm all for shotguns. I love shotguns, but I think Mossberg is trying to overplay the whole retro thing a bit too much because, Clover, would you pay $900 for a 590A1?
Probably not. Depends on if it's got some provenance, some history, or something, some markings or something to it.
No, new manufacturer.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's my point. Okay, unless it's a 590 that's been in the military and that got decommissioned and sold off via auction or however the hell, or if it was a Leo trade-in, then it might be worth more because of it's got the paper trail. But because it's not, and they're trying to make it look all retro, and they do extra work on it to make it look retro, it's great, but it's not worth $900 when you can just get a regular 590 and do all the modifications yourself.
Yeah, I'm not by any means a shotgun snob. I am on a little bit on other things, but when it comes to shotguns, man, pretty much to me, a shotgun's a shotgun's a shotgun.
Yeah, and again, I don't see, anywhere between $200 or $400 or even $500 for Mossberg. That's not that bad. But $800 or $900 for a retrograde where they just do more polish.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but it's not worth it. Yeah. No.
I forgot years ago what I gave for my 590. I think $200 or $250 or something. And
right.
It was a police trade-in. So, I mean, it had rode in those locks or whatever, So it was, of course. It was
scratched up. It was dinged. You had use.
Yeah, it was, PD use in and out of those locking things. And those aren't good rattling around down dirt roads and all kinds of stuff. They're not good on the firearm, but it gives it character too. So.
It tells a story. And quite honestly, even new, okay, I can see paying like $400 or $500 for 590A1, but I'm not going to pay $900 for extra polish and whatnot, just for like a different color stock. I just don't see it. I don't see it being viable. I don't see a lot of people buying that unless they're into the whole retro phase thing, which not a lot of people are. So I think Mossberg's focus should be, I don't know, more placed on looking at what they're selling the most of right now and just boosting production there.
Mossberg's always been a common man shotgun for the most part.
Right. And while some will pay $900 for stuff for a really nice polished gun, not everyone can afford that. There is a price point. So I just don't see it. Right. And granted, this is my personal opinion. Agree with it? Don't. I don't care. All right, I'm done with that. I'm done. going over it. Not that I wouldn't like to own one. They do look nice, but there's no way I'm paying $900 for it.
Blue steel, so she'd pay $1,000 for a Sweet 16 with rough cut wood. Yeah, but you're talking a Sweet 16, so
yeah, that's completely different.
You start getting into collectability with some things.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, but that's what Kitty's asking. Does anybody use wood stocks? Wood stocks, I do. I mean, I like a nice wood stock, and it's really nice. The cool thing about wood is some real light sanding and some refinish work, and you can make one pretty much look brand new. So, if you've got like Drusher was talking about earlier, you've got some of those old rifles that are never going to be worth a bunch of money, but they've got cool history because they were sold in department stores or chain stores or something. A lot of stores that don't even exist anymore. Then you can fix those up, make them look nice, and you're not really hurting the value because they really don't have a value. They have a utilitarian value, right? Where anybody will pay a couple $100 or something for a working firearm, regardless of what it is, type value. But outside of that, there's just never going to be a $1,000 rifle or shotgun or whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
that's what I run into a lot of times with the Marlin Model 60s that I collect. You'll find, I think there's 3 I don't have from the Otasco series, and I found some, but the issue is you find them, and it's at the end of the day, dude, it's a Marlin Model 60. You know what I mean? Value wise, it really doesn't have any. Now, if I ever complete the set would definitely have some value, I think, because of all the time and stuff and cobbling all that together. But individually, anyway, they don't have much more value than a Marlin Model 60 would. So you're looking at what, a couple $100, $250 at the very most. And anyway, I've seen some of those before that I didn't have and passed on them as much as I'd like to have them to complete a set, because people want $350, $400 for them, and I'm not getting that for a model.
Actually, that does remind me. I was at Walmart the other day, and I was looking at the gun cabinet, and they had a new production Marlin Model 60. You know how much they wanted for it?
Probably like $149.
$275.
Was it that expensive?
Yeah.
You can get them way cheaper than that at Academy.
Well, this was a Woodstock one.
Yeah, I know. You can get them cheaper than that. Academy usually has them for.
Well, we don't have Academies here in South Carolina.
$179, in between about $179 and $200. I figured Walmart would be cheaper.
Yeah, I did too. I mean, because they've got the Savages always on sale for like $99 to $150 for the Savage 64. But it's $150 for the Woodstock one, or the camo stock, and it's $99 for this just a normal Savage 64. But I'm sorry, but $275 for a Marlin Model 60? No, no, stay away from that.
That's a $200 rifle, maximum, absolute maximum, and not even. Here's the best part. I went and looked and see how much they were selling on Arms List in my area. You want to take a stab at how much they go for used? $100.
$150.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, come on, guys. Come on. I see what you're doing there.
Yeah. Well, and the newer ones too, the wood on the newer ones sucks. It's not as good a wood as the old ones. They don't do the like the old Marlin and Glenfields where they were checkered and they had the squirrel inlay or whatever. They don't do none of that. It's just a cheap wood stock.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just. Well, I know some people are going with the Walmart conspiracies out there, and Walmart does have good prices on some things. Okay, not a lot, but some. And I've generally gotten some good deals. I mean, they did have one shotgun I was looking at, one of the Hatfield single shot break opens. I was looking at one of those. It was like $99. So I mean, like, why not?
For what?
I don't have a single shot break open 12 gauge. So
which one was it?
it was a Hatfield, the break open 12 gauge single shot.
Yeah, and there's another one too that's similar to that. I can't remember.
I think it's probably Raztech.
I can't remember. The triggers on those are absolutely freaking horrible.
Oh, I know the trigger's garbage, but I mean,
I swear it's got like a 43-pound trigger pull on it.
Yeah, but for just a cheap gun to play around with,
I agree. I mean, for the money and everything else, you can't expect it to have like the best trigger ever or anything like that.
No,
I get
no.
But I'm just making a factual statement that the triggers on them are absolutely horrible.
I mean, for the 22s, the 764 I got, and even if I go and get that 12 gauge break open, I'm not looking to defend the house with those guns. I'm looking to go out in the backyard, shoot all day, have fun. At the end of the day, I'm not gonna try and defend my house in case of a zombie invasion with those things. Absolutely not.
Cheap breakovers are fun too if you reload shotgun shells because you can play around with all kinds of cool stuff. Because you don't have to worry about cycling or feeding or anything like that. So you can do some tail flater moss style crazy shot shell loads.
Yeah. Oh. Anyways, so what's going on with you, Clover? Haven't talked to you for a little while. I got a little bit of the whole Yankee thing earlier the other night, and I'm not that whole Sargon of Akkad thing. I'm not arguing that yes, he may have said something he shouldn't have, but my whole perspective of it is some of you were looking at it from the way wrong perspective because one, he's from England. Two, England you do not have a right to free speech in England. So eventually they can basically swat you for anything that you say, period. Because the nature of his country is like that. Yeah, it's not a great country. And, while Patreon may be based here in the United States, but they still also have to be compliant with the laws in other countries.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we're not careful, the problem with this, when they talk about, we'll teach Patreon a lesson. No, what you'll teach Patreon is that they, instead of them acting according to individuals, which is what they've done in this point, you'll cause them to revert their policy to the lowest common denominator, which means everybody in the United States will get treated like everybody in whatever the worst possible country that they deal with is. And you don't want that either.
No, exactly. And that's what I was getting at. It's just, remember, we're the greatest country on earth. That's what my grandparents taught me. That's what, their grandparents taught them. And, that's what their grandparents went and created. They created this country so that we wouldn't have to be underneath anybody else. We were free, essentially. And, if we don't start promoting the whole thing about freedom and liberty and the right to free speech, period, as well as all the other rights that we have, then yeah, we might as well just let the left take over.
I've gotten beat up for a long time because even though I'm, still, I'm 2/3 of the way through my strike right now, I guess, with YouTube or something like that. I mean, and YouTube sucks, and I don't mind saying it. And I've definitely learned about putting all my eggs in that basket. And it wasn't a Second Amendment issue, or it wasn't even a bias issue. It was simply a wrongful strike. I don't think they got human eyes on it,
and they may not have, because I've not once gotten a strike, and all I'm doing is just talking.
Yeah, and it, the thing though is I've stayed pretty positive and adamant that, there's not near the bias that everybody would make the bias out to be. And right. Regardless, even if they were, flip things around and put yourself in. And if anybody owns a business, for sure, they should understand this, that, flip yourself around and put yourself in the situation. Do you want somebody coming in and dictating what you can and can't do with your business? It's just ridiculous.
Right. That
You're not allowed to protect yourself if you find out you have clients or people that you're associated with that could potentially damage your business in a major way when you're talking lawsuits or breaching. Um, I don't know what you would call it in England, whether that's a law or a whatever, but when you're talking big time egregious things going on, I mean, imagine if there was some ties to terrorism or something, even, right?
right.
Are you not supposed to have recourse because that's free speech?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I mean, nobody is going to sit there and say, "Oh yeah, I wouldn't mind if somebody did it to me." So a lot of people they practice this selective freedom, and I don't get it. I mean, if we should be free to do whatever, then they should be free to do whatever. That's just the way it works.
Right. And here's the thing. Guitar Man Pete out there says, if you stand with the baker over the gay cake, but not with Patreon over Sargon, you don't get it.
Right.
And well, that's two different things. Okay. That's I don't believe the baker should have to make a gay cake. I mean, yeah, it's shitty business practices, but it's his business. He should have a right to say yes or no, or say, no, that goes against my religious views. I'm sorry, but I cannot make your cake, and move on to the next person.
And it goes to a bigger issue. It really does, because people out there need to they've got to educate themselves, man. Don't take my word for it when I'm telling you something, or your word.
Don't take my word for it. Everything I say is based on opinion.
I don't care who it is. Don't take anybody's word for anything. Go and do your own homework. And then sometimes in order to do your homework, you're going to have to get involved. And sometimes that means you're going to have to get on platforms that you don't like because somebody has told you something that, has warped your perception on that platform or whatever. Or, you're going to have to turn on a camera and you're actually going to have to get involved and learn how you create content and learn how these policies work and learn all this other stuff so that what's going on. You've got information that other people's got, because a lot of these people put out information, and this is not just about the Sargon issue that aggravates me to no end. Matt aggravated me in a video where he was talking about the 3/5 compromise, and he was totally wrong on that. And there was a bunch of people that called him out. He still hasn't corrected anything, but he was totally wrong. I don't know that he was intentionally wrong. I think just the way that he framed it, it was misleading because he made it out that it was a Civil War thing. And the 3/5 compromise happened back in the late 1700s is when all that started. It was far removed from the Civil War. And if anything, the 3/5 compromise led to the Civil War. And, that's just an example, a recent example anyway, in my mind, of how you can't just go watch a video or look at a Instagram post or a Facebook post and take that as gospel. You got to do your own homework, or at least be willing to have a conversation with the person that wrote that, to realize that, that where their sources, are they factually correct, or are they just throwing something out there that they heard? Because there's a lot of rumor. The social media is a rumor mill, man. And
it is definitely
horrible. And I'll say, well, XYZ is happening, and then the next thing you do a show and you're like, well, yeah, Clover told me that X, Y, and Z and blah blah blah, and then you add some crap to it, and then the next person gets a hold of it, and then and then by the time it gets back around, it's completely warped to what's actually going on. And that's the way the government and mainstream media and all that, that's how they get us, man.
I mean, you mentioned earlier we use platforms that we don't necessarily like because we have to get our message out there. And I don't like Facebook. I don't like using Twitter, but I have to use that in order to get my message out. I mean, granted, yes, I always have the risk of them saying, oh, he's a right-wing conservative, let's, squelch him out. Yeah, you got that risk no matter what. But again, I still use it until I can't use it.
It's like going to war and saying, well, we're anti-violence, so we're going to go to war, but we're going to use non-lethal weapons. Well, are you trying to make a point, or are you trying to win a war? Because
no, I think they're trying to do a suicide mission.
My point here is, if we want to win this war, which is an assault on all of our rights, then we have to use the same weapons, quote unquote, which are tools, which are social media and everything else. We have to use the same things that everybody else is using. There's no way to win otherwise. You
No,
know,
absolutely.
we can't write books and magazines and newspaper articles and win this. It don't work that way. You know, and that's why, you know, we scream at the top of our lungs, man. You turn on a camera, make a video, get your message out there, get your word out there, because, you know, you may be the next president of the United States. You may be the only video that he happens across that changes his mind on issue X, Y, and Z. And I say the next president, a future president out there or something could, or a congressman or a governor or anything that could affect your life, could be searching social media and looking right now and see a post of yours that would change his mind or change his opinion, or at least start the wheels turning. By the time he got to a position of power, he would have reversed his opinions based off that. Because all we can do is plant a seed. You know, people go into this thinking that, you know, they go in, they drop these bombs, and people are going to change their opinions, and it doesn't work like that. I mean, especially if they're hardened in their opinions, and a lot of folks on our side are hardened in their opinions, and that's great. But realize that people on the other side of any argument, there are people on the other side that are the same way. So if you're not open to a conversation, right, where seeds can be planted, where eventually your mind could be changed, and we're not talking in the sense necessarily of Second Amendment issues, but whatever the issue might be, if you're not open at all to a conversation, then seeds never get planted, and nobody ever changes their mind. Everybody, this just goes around in a vicious circle. And that's what we've done for years and years and years, and it's got to stop.
I think it's easier. I mean, a lot of people, I think, could fall into the trap of it's easier for me to just criticize what you say than for me to put what I think out there. You know, because somebody might actually criticize that. So I'll just spend more time picking apart what you
And
say instead of putting my own message out there.
and as the general populace of viewers, followers, whatever it might be, the vast majority of them, they want drama. I mean, that's just what they and so from that standpoint, let's say that we're dealing with somebody that is not, they're never going to step up. They're never going to be active on social media and create or write or post or take pictures or whatever the case may be. They're forever will just be a consumer of social media. They've got to try to change their mindset to where they don't thrive on the drama. They need to change the way of thinking to where they're actually adding to the conversation rather than thriving on the drama. Because when you thrive on the drama, you embolden the people that's all they peddle is drama. You embolden them people to just continue to pump that garbage out. And
Well,
and again, we don't win that way.
we all know the guy out there that's got, you know, he comes into the range or comes into the job site on Monday and he just complains about how terrible his weekend was because he was fighting with his girlfriend and she accused him of this and they did that, and you think, well, why don't you just break up? But they never do. But every weekend or every Monday they come in and talk about how terrible their weekend was. So you're totally right. There's people out there that will tell you they hate drama. They don't want to be mixed up in it, but they thrive on it. And that's one of the things that I really don't understand is
But
why you want to be in the mix all the time.
and I'm not coming from a place. I'm not demonizing anybody that's that way, because people can change, and odds are those people will eventually change. I know some younger ones that are younger folks that are out in the chat that get way too riled up over way too petty of an issue a lot of times. And you're like, dude, just chill out. You haven't experienced life enough to understand what life's really like. It's not the end of the freaking world here. And that works the same way a lot of times with people that whine and complain about everything that might be bad in their life. If you turn things around, you start focusing on the good. And you turn things around, you start focusing on the things that are truly important in your life, then your perspective starts to change on a lot of different things at that point. And you realize that this world is a big, huge, complex place. And what you might think is end of the world to you in reality is not the end of the world.
Yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely.
think about it here. The poorest of the poor in this country don't hold a candle to some of the other countries. It's like you said earlier, Night Strike, with this being the greatest country on the planet. The poorest of the absolutely poor here. I'm talking about homeless on the sidewalk veterans have it better.
They still have more than the people
Average,
in like Uganda.
Exactly, than the average people in most countries. They can still dig through the trash and find food to eat. In Uganda and other countries in the world and stuff, they don't the rich people don't even have enough food. So the poor people are sure enough screwed. They can't even get the garbage.
Right. So I mean, it's just some of the people that are out there, that are spewing some of this shit. They don't understand that our country is probably the best country in the world as far as as far as just living. Period. Okay. Whereas other countries, it really sucks. It really sucks to be in another country.
A long time ago, I used to say, and it's a saying, it's just a thing people say, but I used to say I grew up with nothing. We've all heard people say that. Most of us have probably even said it ourselves. But I grew up with nothing. I grew up with nothing. And this one, we'll call him a wise old man, told me one time, he said, "Did your parents, work hard every day?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Did they put food on your table and clothes on your back and send you to school and get you toys?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, next time you see him, go tell him that all that was nothing." And that changed my mind on things a lot because, like you were just talking about, people who want to come out and burn the flag and say America's terrible and this, that, and the third, they didn't put anything into the fight. They don't think about all the people from the Revolutionary War up to,
because everything has been given to them.
Exactly.
They don't understand the worth of things because everything was handed to them on silver platter.
Well, and the majority of the people that have those kinds of stances have absolutely no idea, one, what it's like to be in another country, and that you cannot do stuff like that in another country. They have no respect at all for what you were able to do as a human being, as a citizen of the United States in this country.
Okay. Plus, if you do what they do here, like all the rioting and all that shit in another country, okay, you think police brutality is bad here in the United States? Multiply that by 1,000 in another country, and that's what they'll do to you if you riot in another country. I'm not kidding. And nobody's arguing with me. Oh, crap. Night Strike just made a point. Uh-oh.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's many, many, many countries in this world. We'll just go into Sharia law, a woman can't walk around by herself. It's just absolutely insane.
It ain't even that. Did you see the Egyptian? She was like a singer or something, and they had an awards show, and it was like a dress that she wore, and it was like quote unquote too revealing and all that, and so they like arrested her.
Right.
Like, what in the world is up with that? And I'm telling you, I've seen a picture of this, and I was like, that dress was not, compared to some of the stuff on the red carpet we see over here, that wasn't nowhere near revealing, but
yeah.
Like, it was a little bit of cleavage and a little bit of bare shoulder going on, and they were like, "Oh no!" Or a little bit, I think it had a slit, or whatever, up fairly high, in the dress, and but it was classy. I mean, like I said, it was very mild compared to the stuff over here, and it was a big old ruckus over there, and they like arrested her, and she may do time in prison because of all that crap. Just over wearing a dress.
Well, in certain parts of the country, she wouldn't be imprisoned. She would be taken out into the middle of the street and stoned to death.
Yeah, they still do that over there in the Middle East. So, say what you want about our country, but every other country in the world is not as nice as our country is. And you don't have the same, what is it, standard of living and in our country that you do in our country anywhere else in the world. So, and again, everybody out there that's commenting, all of us in here in the chat, we all know this, but we're just saying this so that the next time someone does something, maybe on the off chance they come across this conversation, they'll understand that, hey, don't say you grew up with nothing, because you probably have parents that care about you and a family that cares about you. At the very least. You know, you did grow up with something. Because compared to the alternative outside of our country, you haven't suffered.
You know, I was what was called a latchkey kid. You know, my parents were almost pretty much gone for the morning. I got myself up. I got myself to school. When I came home, I got my own snack and got ready. And my parents showed up a couple hours later after I'd been working on my homework. My parents worked all day, and
well, they did that so you could live a good life.
And they did that so that we could live in a decent home and have decent food at a decent table and with a decent amount of security around us.
Well, let me ask you this, Alan. When they did come home, were you paid attention to? Was there family time when they was not working, or were they removed? And don't answer if it's too personal. Don't answer. But you know, I don't mean to play Dr. Phil here, but I'm just curious how involved they were when, you know, outside of they have to work.
Well, yeah, there was. Sure, there was, you know, the regular everyday things that, you know, like my dad would have to do something to one of the cars or something. But if we wanted to go be with him, we'd go hang out in the garage, and he would interject us into whatever it was that he was doing or whatnot. They were completely involved. Dinner time for the most part was nothing but family time. For quite a while, the TV was off. We sat at the table. And nowadays that's kind of impossible to do with
right.
the way cell phones are and everything else,
and social media and whatnot.
The social media, you can't hardly just sit down and have a meal with your kids.
But you're just gonna have to draw. You got to draw a line to do it.
You got to draw a line. You got to make sure they follow it.
I don't know that a lot of parents are willing to do that because they're more concerned with being a friend than they are a parent. But the reason I was curious about that, I don't have an issue, and I know when we talk about the American family dynamic and all of that has changed so much over the years, and parents aren't parents anymore. And one of the comebacks when you start talking about that, you're almost always met with is, well, we have to, as parents, we have to both work, and we have to both work long hours, and we have to both do this. And I have a few questions. And my first question is, okay, let's assume that that's correct, and that you legitimately have to, which I'll get into why I kind of doubt that in a lot of situations later. But for now, let's assume that that's correct, and you absolutely have to. With the time that you have, are you coming home and continuing to just do your own thing and not be a family, or are you making some type of an effort to communicate with your kids, make sure that, your kids know about your day and you know about their day, and, what they're up to, what they're doing in school, and, just teaching them life, right? Because that's how kids learn life. They still get a rude awakening when they get shoved out into life, but at least they kind of, through mom and dad, they kind of get an idea of what life is like at an early age. So that's a positive thing that you can do if you're in that situation. But then back to my original premise of assuming that that's true, that people have to. I know people that say they have to, but they don't. They don't have to have $3,000 worth of car payments a month. They don't have to live in a house that cost them, what it cost me in taxes for my house and land and everything for 5 years for 1 month for their mortgage. They don't have to live in the lifestyle that they do. But I think a lot of times parents are selfish to raising their kids in a point to where they want a certain lifestyle. It's not necessarily that they want that for their kids, and they don't realize that by cutting back hours or switching to another job that maybe paid a little less, but give them a little more time, or maybe one parent not working. Yeah, okay, you may have to live in a little bit cheaper neighborhood. I'm not talking about doing it to the point that you're living in a slum in a horrible crime-ridden neighborhood. But you can do certain things. You can get rid of those $3,000 a month car payments for 2 cars and go to 2 cars for $600 a month very easily. That are would be decent vehicles very easily. And just cutbacks like that you could do that. I don't think a lot of parents, they hide behind that. Well, I have to do this because, to be able to provide. And they don't realize that the providing thing is, what Hallen said. He said a decent, right? When he said that, he said a decent home and a decent table and decent food. He didn't say the best. And I think a lot of people, they see, instead of best or decent, they see best. And so they do whatever they've got to do to get the best. And they're harming themselves, they're harming their family dynamic, they're harming their children, I think, in the process.
Oh, absolutely. That's some solid point there, Clover. There was, like, we would go to the grocery store, and this is just a very small example. We would go to the grocery store and my dad would be like, okay, you need this and this and this for your lunches. You need something for this and this and this. And he would scrimp on this or scrimp on that. But there was one thing that my father was not willing to scrimp on, and that was his bread. He had a specific bread that he wanted, and that was the want that he fulfilled. Everything else was, what do we need? And there's a certain amount of just desire of, this is the standard that I want to live at. And these are the standards of, the neighbor Joe or whatever. Well, looking at the big picture of it all, just that one little thing was enough to satisfy him and be able to save everywhere else. But he did do something for himself. So a lot of parents just go the complete overboard opposite direction, and they're so focused on, I want to be at this level, or I should be at this level, and have no attention to being able to save and scrimp away to do what's best for the entire family. They look at, oh, well, my car has 78,000 miles on it, and I want to sell it before it gets to 100. So I'm going to go ahead and buy something else. And they buy extraordinary rather than something that's going to transport them back and forth to work economically.
Right. Yeah. Keeping up with the Joneses has become almost a plague, I think, on society. And, shows like the Kardashians and crap like that don't help.
No, they don't. No. All right, so what's going out there on the YouTube side? Old 60 Armory says, hey, Night Strike. Hello, Old 60 Armory.
Wheelchair warrior, he says he don't scrimp on his ammo. There you go.
Yeah, he don't skip on ammo.
There you go.
Not unless he can help it.
Yeah.
I mean, no. If things are tight, you can only get Tula. Then okay, go get Tula. But if you can afford better ammo, get better ammo.
Well, and there's a very good reason why there's not much in my refrigerator, but I don't have to care for anybody but myself. And so when I don't want to scrimp on ammunition, I scrimp on other things. I'll go ahead and eat top ramen for a week. I don't care. It doesn't bother anybody but me. But that goes right back into the want category than need. If I need ammunition, then I'm gonna get whatever I can get. If it's cheap, dirty, reloaded by some factory somewhere ammunition, then that's what I'm gonna do.
Right. I mean, it's just there have been times where I need some ammunition, and I know it's really I want ammunition, but I usually just get I get steel case instead of brass. Though I normally just use brass, but in some situations I have where I can't afford couple boxes of brass, but I can afford a couple boxes of steel case. I got steel case. Yeah. But that's just my that's just me personally.
Yeah, Rob mentions kids don't need iPhones and $150 shoes.
No.
I could not even imagine. I did not even own $100 pair of shoes until I was over 30, and it just about killed me to buy anything that was over $100 for a pair of shoes.
Right, I've never paid that much for shoes ever. Period.
I never have either.
I had one pair of basketball shoes back that that my mom and dad bought me. I guess second year maybe of playing basketball. That were, I don't remember. They were Charles Barkley's, I want to say. I don't even remember now. So that tells you how important they actually were, right? Because I can't even remember what they were. I do remember.
Barkley's, huh? Wow.
I do remember they were gray and red. I do remember that. But
that must have been back when he was on the 76ers.
I think they were Barclays. But anyway, and they were. I couldn't tell you how much they were. I know they were expensive for a pair of sneaking shoes. I'm not going to say that they were $100 or more than $100 or whatever, because I honestly don't remember. But I remember there being friction. You know what I mean? Because they were considerably more expensive. But I was dedicated, buckled down, practiced. So that was kind of the, okay, for this year we're going to get you this new pair of shoes, right? So, and I guess maybe that's different than just, arbitrarily buying a kid a pair of, $100 or $200 shoes, and, they're not really doing anything that requires those shoes, or, making good grades in school or helping out around the house. And I think that's what happens a lot of times is kids are not taught merit, right? They're not taught that, you're doing all the things that you need to do, then you end up being rewarded, and life is that way. It's the American dream. I mean, if you work hard, you can make a good life for yourself, and you can eliminate a lot of stress and not have to worry about stuff. But you got to work hard and you got to work smart.
Well, and when I was young, my parents occasionally they would strike deals with me, and so if I wanted something, let's say it was $100, that's just what we're throwing out here. If I wanted something that was $100, and they'd go, okay, well, if you get 50, I'll give you the other 50, but you'll have to pay me back. And so I could get it a little bit sooner, but they would hold me to it. And I would still have to pay the rest of that, but it also gave me completely the sense of the value of $1. And then as I got older, when I began to drive, I had to buy my own vehicle. I had to pay for my own insurance. I had to pay for my own gas. but they would work with me, and they'd go ahead and pay my insurance, and I would pay them monthly. So I still had to pay my own bills in that aspect. So them doing that, even though at the time they very well could have afforded it, but wasn't what it was about. It was about teaching me how to deal with money much later in life.
It was teaching you the value of a dollar.
Yeah, teaching me the value of the dollar. And so many kids nowadays have absolutely no clue the value of a dollar. They don't know what it's like to have to work for a certain amount of money. They go, "Oh, well, I want that new game, and that game's $50, so why don't you just get me that game?" Well, no, go out and mow a lawn or 50 and get yourself the money to do it.
All right, nowadays prices you could do
or just wait about a year and that game is like, half price the next year.
Well, but there's a certain amount of keeping up with the Joneses that goes on with kids too, that all the kids are playing that game now. They need that game now. But again, there's things that can do. There's I'm not opposed to allowance.
That's like it was when I was a kid. You had to have that cool thing now. But again, that's always a fad. It passes, and a month or 2 months down the line, they won't be playing it or playing with whatever it is that's the fad.
I'm not opposed to allowances for grades. I'm not opposed to allowances for chores, whatever, chores around the house and things like that. I'm not opposed to that concept. I mean, that's still, they're giving, they're still working towards that. That's not just money that's handed out. And I mean, then they can go buy or do with. And I'm going to tell you, a lot of times Alan's right. A lot of times when you can instill that in a kid, you would be surprised. My kids were always that way. My youngest one's that way now. It's insane. I mean, she's penny pinching and fairly miserly. She will splurge on some stuff every now and then, but that child will work and put money up, and she makes calculated decisions on what she buys. Does she really want to spend all that money? And when it's their money, they see that. They'll screw up a few times. They're going to, because they're kids, and they're gonna, they'll get their allowance, or they'll mow the yards like Alan said, and they'll do this and they'll do that, and they'll build up a little bit of money in the piggy bank or the bank account or whatever it might be, and then they'll run out and they'll buy something utterly stupid and not have any money, and then think, oh, well, this wasn't worth the money I spent. They'll start seeing that value, right? Because you've got a monetary value, and then you've got an actual value. And monetarily, that video game may be worth $50, but when they buy that $50 video game and they had, $60 saved up, well, now they've only got $10, and they get home and the video game sucks, or 2 days later they're tired of it and they're like, I can't believe I spent $50 on this. I'm going to think a lot harder next time before I decide to spend my money, $50 on a stupid video game, and do a little more research maybe, and that helps people, because there's not at least not major purchases for me. If we go out and I'm getting a TV, a refrigerator, a microwave, a washing machine, man, I'm on JD Pirate Associates. I'm looking around at reviews and I'm looking at, okay, if it breaks, how's this built, and what kind of motors does it run in, and if it breaks, what's the availability on parts, and what's the crossovers, because with appliances and stuff like that, there's a lot of crossover. And I don't particularly like buying GE stuff. I try to stay away from anything that's remotely related to GE, just because as a company, I don't care for them. Definitely not saying boycott or anything like that. Just that's a personal preference of mine. But I do a whole lot of homework, and that comes from making bad decisions, and so you've got to let them. You got to let them do that. You got to give them the flexibility and the freedom to do that with their own money, and then they'll learn.
That's yeah, extremely, extremely valid. They have to make their mistakes on their own. They don't need your help. But you touched on something, and I wanted to say what one of the things that my parents did that I ended up doing as a parent was my kids had a certain chores that were just their regular chores. They got nothing for doing those chores. Those were just chores that they had to do. And then there was extra stuff. And if you want to go ahead and do this or this week, I'll give you X amount. And so they had the regimented things that you had to do anyway, the regular stuff that you had to do anyway. But if you wanted a little bit of extra money, you can do this and this and this. Right. Some people might consider that child labor, but I digress.
Within the confines of the home, it's not. But yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying because my kids were that way. I mean, once they got to a point that where they were able to, for example, washing and drying and putting away their own clothes, that was a given. It's like you don't get paid for that. Those are your clothes. I'm already having to pay the water bill and electricity and everything else for you.
Okay, we're getting a little off topic here. I mean, we're getting down to grandpa channels now.
How's that?
Well, you have a couple of grandpas in your chat.
I know. But again, I understand. I don't have children yet, so I want this to be a surprise, okay?
Fixing the world's problems here, man.
You may be completely different, but Tom, you have kids.
Right?
It may be.
Flying around in cars and wearing silver jumpsuits. Jetpacks.
Everybody's got to do what works for them. I mean, there is no, here's the formula, here's the book, follow everything on here, and it'll work for your kids.
It doesn't work like that.
It doesn't work like that, but I do think in generations past, we were brought up to be a little bit more responsible.
The principles, I agree with you, Giz. The principles are solid, right? The principles don't change. The application is what varies from individual to individual, from household to household. Is how you apply said principles is different.
Right. All right. I think we've solved the world's problems this evening. I think we had a great discussion. But it's about the hour now, so it's time to wind this one down onto the ground. Get it over with. So, everyone, we'll see you next Tuesday, and hopefully we'll also see you next Friday. So, thank you, everyone, for listening. I'd like to thank my panel for showing up. You guys, you didn't have to show up, but I'm glad you guys did jump in.
Hey, Tuesday's New Year's. You're going on New Year's?
Yeah, I did. You missed it. I did hit or miss on Christmas as well.
I was listening a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, we were just shooting breeze, but if it's a holiday and I can do hit or miss, I'm not doing anything with family, then yes, I'll do something. It may not be I'm going over the news. It may just be that we're just talking, having a good time. But again, that's what it's all about.
I didn't want you lying to anybody. I was just trying to clarify. That's all.
Yeah, no, I know. It's fine. I understand you got to keep Night Strike honest. I understand that. But yeah, if people show up to help me do hit or miss on Tuesdays, I'll do it on Tuesday. It doesn't matter whether it's New Year's or the day after. It doesn't matter. Whether I got a hangover or not, I'll still do it.
Well, that'll be the first show of the year.
It will be, won't it? So,
well,
all right.
Unless I get up New Year's morning and working.
Well, yeah, but Gizzard, when was the last time you did Foul Territory?
It's been a while.
That's my point. So
I could do it at midnight on New Year's Eve.
You could quark me, but I know you're not that vindictive.
I wouldn't do it to get at you, no.
All right. So I want to thank Gizzard Gary for showing up. I want to thank Clover Tack for showing up. And Alan B. Pro, thanks for jumping in. I wouldn't expect you to, but I sent you a link because I saw you out there, and I figured if you can jump in and give us your perspective, that'd be great.
No, I ain't got to talk to Alan in a while. That was nice.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate the link. I haven't been able to be on with you guys in a little while, and it's always good to talk to you gents.
But since I got you here and we're winding it down, I have one question to ask you. Because I talked to our mutual friend last night, the Crazy Scotsman, and I have to ask, have you heard about this Tinder challenge?
Yes. The Scotsman has the hashtag Tinder challenge going out there, and so far we've gotten a couple of absolutely hilarious VRs coming back at that. I mean, some of it's just leaving me absolutely speechless. He did that entirely on his own. He basically just told me, I'm gonna do it during a foreign to domestic one night. and I'm like, yeah, right. We'll see if it happens. And Scotsman says he's gonna do something. He does
He's
it.
gonna do it. Oh, but last night he also said he was also he would also take Grinder video responses as well instead of just Tinders. So you got both ends now. So that's a second.
Absolutely classic. Absolutely classic. Yeah. If you haven't found out, go over to the Crazy Scotsman's channel and watch the video that he does about hashtag Tinder challenge. Go ahead and get in on it if you want. He's doing it for a good cause. It wasn't something that I requested. But he is doing it for me for a good cause.
All right. Well, if you guys are so inclined, go and check that out. Go check out the Crazy Scotsman on YouTube. Check out Alan B Pro, Clovertech, and Gizzard Gary on YouTube as well. So, with that, guys, I think we're about to head out. So, we'll see you guys on the next one.
Peace.
Not infringed.